Hello and welcome to Film Ireland Presents. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm really delighted to be joined today by director Megan K. Fox. She's directed episodes from the fabulous Deadpan series Video Nasty, which screens on Virgin Media this Monday on the 20th of January. Her TV credits also include EastEnders and Fair City and Too Good to Be True, and her award-winning short films have screened at festivals all around the world. First up, we'll have a little listen to the trailer of Video Nasty.
Usual rules. No screaming, no looking away.
What are you even watching anyway?
Ah, you've nearly got the full Video Nasty collection.
We're going to England. She has the tape.
Why did you take your hat off with a big depressed head in you?
That's my face.
You actually think you're gonna come over here and meet your dream girl?
This is what it's all about, man. Let's make the most of it.
There's someone out there.
All we have to do is find the final tape.
Oh, you can smell the wrongness of it.
You're here to give yourselves for our souls.
Our souls.
Our souls!
So thank you so much for chatting with us.
Oh, delighted.
Oh, it's great. It's great to have you in. I've been following your career since one of your early shorts. I really caught it at a short film screening, and I was such a big fan. And you've gone on to do such incredible things that we'll dig into in a little while. But I was wondering if you could talk to me about your journey. Like, what brought you into film? What was your first break here?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, and in a way I like to tell the story, especially around the time that kids are doing their leaving certs, because I kind of came into it by accident. I always loved writing and storytelling and photography, but like as a kid or as a teenager, I never thought in any way that there'd be a place for me in filmmaking. I think at that time, it was before we were getting films like Barbie coming out that were, or there's much better examples, but that was a big splash, kind of showing young women that they can work in this industry. And I didn't know of any films that had been directed by a female filmmaker at that time. But I basically didn't get the points in my leaving cert to do pure English, which is what I thought I would go into and do journalism or teaching. So I ended up in a course called for film literature and drama in DBS. And it was a purely theory-based course, but I remember sitting in my first cinema history class and learning about George Millet and the Lumiere brothers and Lassie Reiniger, and kind of going, oh my God, this is like magic. And this was people bringing their stories to life in a time when it was a hell of a lot harder than it is with the technology that we have now. So I kind of went, okay, maybe I'll try my hand at writing a script. And it was kind of a slightly competitive process in our course for our kind of final projects. Two of the scripts were chosen out of all of the scripts that were written. One of them was mine, which meant that I got the first dibs on directing it as well. So I did. And then promptly after that was finished, buried it forever because it was obviously absolutely terrible. But it lit the fire in me. I was like, actually, I really love this. And I love the sense of community when you're leading a crew. So I crowdfunded to make a slightly better short so that I could apply for my master's in London, because again, at the time in Ireland, there wasn't really many practical master's courses. I don't think that IIDT even was offering a practical master's filmmaking course at that time. So yes, I went over to the Met Film School in London in 2014, and I did my master's. Yeah, kind of the short film career, if you can call it a career, but at that stage. But the short films started flowing after that. And then the TV journey was a whole separate beast.
Okay, so your short films, they're you're finding your voice, and then all of a sudden, they're starting to play some festivals, they're starting to win awards. Can you tell me the kind of moment that you knew, yeah, this is, or was it something that you felt driven to do this, but when you went, yeah, like this is going to be my job now?
I think that there was a moment. So, I mean, it was kind of great to be in London at the very beginning of making the shorts and stuff, because there was lots of these like fun and exciting festivals and challenges and stuff. So I think one short that was sort of a turning point for me was about a year after I had graduated. Just myself and a cinematographer I'd met at the Met Film School, and like two other friends, a hair and makeup artist, and a couple of people that I literally found on Facebook at the time, we decided to do this like 60-hour film challenge for film festival. I don't actually even know if it's still running, but it was Colchester Film Festival. We just made this really lovely. The whole idea was, you had to, we do them here as well, the 48-hour challenge and stuff. You have to conceive of the script and everything based off prompts that you get. And so it was really good fun. We kind of all stayed in my apartment and stayed up all night, and I wrote the scripts and then we shot them. And then, but anyway, we ended up winning the competition, and the prize was really amazing. It was like quite a bit of kit that we sort of needed to sort of guerrilla style go out and make more stuff. And there was a mentorship with a production company. And it was just really great because, I mean, I think that was the first. No, the first. My graduation short won Best Student Short at the Underground Film Festival. That was the first award, but this was the first award that I went, and I was really not expecting it. And I remember talking to my cinematographer friend, going, "Oh my God, we won this kit and stuff. Like, we had all these other ideas." And so when I won that, I was like, "Okay, wow, let's kick it into overdrive and make more shorts." But it wasn't until I got the opportunity with RTE and Screen Ireland to do the multi-camera training course for Fair City that I actually was able to leave the day job and kind of go, okay, this is a viable career choice now. I mean, that was always the goal, but I was still managing a boutique clothes shop in London until I moved home and did that course. So that was really the turning point, and it's been amazing that since then, that was 2018, and since then I've been able to just solidly be working in TV. Been very lucky in that regard.
And talk to me about getting works and getting gigs. Is it a case of, okay, so you do that and you get a sort of mini placement on Fair City, is it? And then as a result of that, get work?
Yeah, so it's a course that I don't know if they're planning on running it again. I think they really should. Like, they only ran it once again since 2018 when I did it. And the idea was to train up 4 new Irish directors to understand and be able to shoot within the multi-camera studio environment, and to the pace and to the workflow that is required for that, because it's a completely different world to short film.
Like, if you were to boil it down in a few sentences, what would be the difference between that traditional look? Is it that you have to have an omnipotent understanding of what's happening, or is it that you were saying about the workflow? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's kind of more technical workflow. It's like so rather than doing a shot list and working in a single camera environment like that, you have to do your camera plans sort of in imagining the set like a theater production more than a TV or a film show, TV show or film, because a lot of the sets are very restrictive, and you're also shooting on 3 cameras at any one time. So it makes you have to think about your angles and your coverage in a totally different way, and you're also up against a time pressure that's unlike anything else. You'd have 25 to 45 minutes per scene, and those scenes could be 10 pages long. So it's incredibly, it's the pace, and it's also the prep work is very different in terms of learning how to mark up your scripts for the vision mixer, and do your camera maps so that everybody can understand. Everybody basically needs to know exactly what's happening before you even step foot on that set, because really you only have time to run the lines very quickly with the actors, and kind of run around yourself as all of the different actors and tell them where you've imagined the blocking to be, because like what's really hard and what people don't understand sometimes is like sometimes a new set could be going in for a soap, or a set that hasn't been in a few months, and it could be only going in over the weekend and you're shooting on the Tuesday. So you might not have, like, you've had to just buy, drawn map designs. You have to already pre-visualize what the entire blocking is going to be and what all of your shot choices are going to be. So it's kind of a different skill set completely than shooting in real environments on a single camera.
God, that's so intense. So okay, so you graduated from that. Do they give you a little bit of a placement, or do you do a shadow experience on
Yeah,
it, or do you shoot an episode? Like, what did that scheme look like?
no, it was really set up to go straight into being one of the Fair City directors. So, it started out with a course, and then we shadowed. Then we had an entire block of our own with a more experienced director kind of mentoring us through that. Um, then it was just like, once they were happy that they could see that we could achieve that, we were literally on their books then. And it was kind of great because when COVID hit, like us Irish directors who had kind of been newly trained in ended up kind of working back to back for the entirety of COVID in there, and keeping her lit on Fair City. So it's a real trial by fire, and it teaches you a hell of a lot of discipline. So it was great to just get in there and do as much of it as I did.
That's amazing. So you went from like not having kind of huge TV credits to just being prolific in TV. Sort of when did the UK market open up as a space for you to work in?
So I kind of had, once I decided that I was enjoying working in TV, there's sort of a trajectory there to move from from something like Fair City to one of the UK soaps. And one of them that I was most excited about working on was EastEnders, because they're very excited in EastEnders to break the mold. Sometimes, they allow you to come up with more interesting ways of styles of shooting and set pieces and things like that you don't always get the opportunity to do on other soaps. So so basically I got my first agent, and he got me the meeting for EastEnders after I'd done about maybe 4 or 5 blocks of Fair City, and I got EastEnders, and I was absolutely delighted. So and then after EastEnders, it felt like the door to the UK was sort of open, so I could reach out to another agent who was kind of working in other areas of TV and film that were more, the trajectory that I wanted to go in. Because I was like, okay, after the soap credits, it's kind of like you move to, let's do a Channel 5 series, let's do a BBC series, let's, work our way up to then the big streaming platforms would kind of be the goal.
And okay, so we're here very specifically to talk about your 2 most recent projects that we'll dive into. But there was like, do you find the landscape in Ireland and the UK broadcast different? Does it feel different, or is it just a bigger version?
Like it's funny because both of the TV projects that we're going to talk about, the Too Good to Be True and Video Nasty, they're both technically UK productions. Video Nasty is UK, Ireland, Germany, Canada co-production. They both shot in Ireland and Northern Ireland. So, my only experience of actually working in the TV landscape in the UK at the moment is EastEnders. And yeah, it is very different, but it is, as you say, kind of just because the only thing I can compare it to is Fair City, and the difference there is just it's bigger, it's got a bigger budget, so there's more people involved, and there's more, there's a little bit more to play with.
Before we move on to them, I do want to, like, something as sort of beloved as Fair City in a way, but you're sort of specifically trained, and it's very much so soft landing to go up into that space from a course to going in, but walking into like such a huge, well-oiled, well-loved machine such as, say, EastEnders, that exists and that has such a, like, where is that terrifying? Is that so exciting? Do you spend like literally months of your life watching it? What's that even like?
I definitely spent months of my life watching it, because I'll be honest, I had never watched EastEnders in my life before I got the job. I'm not really actually a soap person at all. So yeah, I did a lot of catching up, and actually I was like, oh God, have I just developed a guilty pleasure here? This is actually great. But yeah, obviously I was terrified going in at first, but they're really, really kind and really supportive in BBC actually, especially on EastEnders. They have a real focus on kind of bringing people up through the ranks, and different, there's people there who I know now who are like first ADs, or working in production, who started out as runners. So it's quite a young and vibrant crew, and so they're really supportive of new people coming in, and really supportive of the director's vision on it, which is great. I think the most intimidating thing about it is just working with some of the actors who've been on it for such a long time, and you're coming in as this complete newbie, and then you're supposed to be directing them, who has been living in their character for sometimes like 20 years. But that's just about kind of fostering trust, and also trusting them that they know if something's completely wrong for their character.
And in terms of that, so you were working on Fair City, but also are you developing your film and kind of personal projects alongside that? Because I love in the time of Corona, like that was such a fun watch. There's so much comedy. That's your voice that would be recognizable from your earlier short films.
Yeah, so definitely like loving the time of Corona. I was working on Fair City all throughout that time, and then I was lucky enough to be contacted by RT to say that they would love to give me this little bursary to make something during lockdown. And I only conceived of it when they called me. And I was like, I'm just gonna kind of turn my diary right now into a comedic short, because my life's a bit hilariously tragic right now. So yeah. So I mean, that was kind of the only short that I've had the time since the TV work kind of started to kick off that I've done. But then more recently I have been developing a feature idea. It's kind of at almost at first draft stage, and I'm developing that with Fantastic Films. So hopefully, yeah, fingers crossed, that's going to come to fruition sometime soon.
Brilliant. We'll have you back in to chat about that one, definitely. So, I mean, so that's really, really exciting, and it's like, again, it just seems to be constantly moving and evolving. Okay, so like Video Nasty, let's kind of start digging down into this, because it's just such a fun, entertaining series. Deadpan, like it's set in the UK, but I definitely recognized a lot of Irish actors. Talk to me about coming on board with that, and what was that like?
Yeah, so let me cast my mind back. I think it was funny because it came from sort of two places. I'd wanted to work with Deadpan for a really long time, because obviously they're sort of leading the way in female focused comedy in Ireland. Them and Merman, obviously. So I had done a shadowing placement on the Southwesterlies, which is a TV series that they did. What one was that now? Maybe 2019, I think.
Yeah. And Catherine Maher was the writer?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I chatted on that, and got on really well with Ailish and sort of the team in Deadpan. And then very weirdly, I had also had a meeting about a film for I think, was it for Film 4, and it was called Something in the Water. It was like a shark a shark film. It's a bit more than a shark film, but yeah, it was like this cool female-led shark thriller that Julie Baines was going to be producing. So and I got on really well with Julie for that. That didn't come. That didn't end up. I didn't end up working on Something in the Water, but she remembered me then, and then she was producing Video Nasty. So it was sort of a two-pronged approach there, I guess, to maybe thinking of me in the first place, which was having met with Julie Baines for that, and getting on really well with her, and then having shadowed with Deadpan. So yeah, so they just approached my agent, and I pitched very aggressively for it. Because I was like, I absolutely love this. Oh my God, this is everything that I love and exactly in my wheelhouse. So yeah, I made an aggressive pitch deck.
And what's it like sort of divvying up the episodes with Christopher Smith? How does the work flow? How do you build it? What are the discussions like leading up to this?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of about it's about being on the same page with the tone, I think, more than anything else. For something like this, the tone was so specific. We're shifting from actually scary horror moments to comedy, and then to some sort of heartfelt coming of age stuff. So we just needed to, we just started sharing lots of references, and so tonal references first, then discussing character, and kind of just being in the room, same room together for a lot of those meetings with the other HODs as well, to make sure that we were all on the same page. And then when I got up to Monaghan during prep, and Chris was just about to start shooting, but I kind of mainly tried to grab him and have the time with him to be sort of actually looking at shot references and being like, Chris was great at being like, oh, have you seen this film? This sequence, the way that they did this and that. That's how I think I'm going to do this sequence or that sequence. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'd say, this is what I was thinking for this. And he'd say, oh, well, then I can, it's really interesting to say, you say, I'm thinking about employing this cool idea, this sort of skewed angle or camera movement, or some sort of unusual lens choice or something like that. Then if the first block director likes that idea, then he's like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe I'll seed that into a sequence earlier on so that we can create a shared language. So that's kind of the process.
Gorgeous. I love that. So it's so collaborative, and you're really like working to kind of get the tone of the whole piece. And in terms of then, so you've shot it, you've decided what it looks like, what it feels like, you've gone in and shot it. Then in terms of the edit, would you be very much so over your own episodes, or would again that be a conversation? What would that look like?
No, but I mean, for my own episodes, that's me and my editor in the room. Yeah, and then obviously, then it goes, once we're happy with the cut, then there's, there was quite a few executives on this who all have to, pitch in with their ideas then and feedback as well. And yeah, I mean, Chris definitely, he has his own notes on it as well, along with Hugh Travers, who's our writer. So yeah, it's still a pretty collaborative process, but there is freedom in the room that it's just me and my editor until we get it to a place that we're happy to show other people.
And actually, this is probably a good time to stop and discuss a little bit, but these are really young, talented, and brilliant up and coming actors that like do a lot, they have to convey a lot of emotion, of fear. Everything is so high. Like, I mean, it's just a need that everything is so heightened, but there really is like a slasher, and there really is like the stakes could not be higher. Talk to me about what's your process in general about working with actors. How do you like, if something is in your own film, does it differ to getting it in the context of this? How do you like to build a world with your actors? Do you see where they come from, or do you sort of have long discussions? I'm just so curious.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of like, I treat it the same as creating, my relationships with my crew, really. You're just sort of trying to identify in a quicker way than you would in the normal world, what that person responds best to and what their communication style is, and then points of for something like this, points of reference are quite interesting, because obviously we've got a much younger cast who would be familiar with a lot of the video nasties, or even some of the references that I might have had, like the Goonies, or things like that. So I mean, it's really just about spending as much time with them as possible. It was kind of great that we were up in Monaghan, and none of us were from Monaghan, so we were all sort of staying in the same hotel or close by, and it could just happen very naturally that the kids had a fitting. I'd say, hey guys, will we go down to the Indian and get dinner together, and then you can just make it a conversation rather than a formal sort of study session. We're just talking about how they feel about their character, and that, like, they were having those. The great thing is they were so excited, and they already had built a bit of a relationship with each other by the time I came and met them. They were already having those conversations, and I was just sort of listening and being privy to how they were interpreting the character, so that I could almost come into it knowing where they were at rather than the other way around. Um, and yeah, and just making sure that, especially for Leia, there's some very there's some scenes in it that could be quite traumatic for a younger woman to portray. So I think for me, it's also about making sure that we feel like we're creating a fictional character together. You don't have to bring you don't have to give more of yourself to it than you feel comfortable with or than is going to be healthy for you. A lot of the time, I think people forget that actors are creators or creatives. And what they're doing is they're creating a character. They're creating a fictional narrative that they can step into rather than putting themselves in that position. And I think it's very healthy to maintain a boundary there. So a lot of that was interesting for me on this production, and in terms of working with Leia. And I think she's such a fantastic actress, and she really managed those emotional beats so well, and then so seamlessly slipped into comedy. Like, her comedic timing is just fantastic. But I don't really I don't run scenes really. I just discuss them with my actors, and then the only stuff that I would, obviously make sure that I've really rehearsed is any stunts or intimacy stuff. And there was kind of crossover between stunts and intimacy on a couple of the scenes in my episodes as well. So that was really interesting to me, to work with the stunt coordinator, the intimacy coordinator in the room, kind of be figuring out those boundaries, and also figuring out what I love about working with them. I got to do quite a bit of stunts in Too Good to Be True as well. And I'm really enjoying that work lately, because when you have a stunt coordinator or an intimacy coordinator, it's not just like, okay, this is what I want to happen in this, and just choreograph it and show us how to do it safely. They come to you with creative ideas as well of how to build more beats into that scene and into that moment and that movement than you might have initially interpreted from the script. So that's really good fun as well.
Yeah, so Too Good to Be True. That's an interesting point to bring in for a contrast. You have, like, it is with Video Nasty, it's so pacey. I mean, it is character driven in a sense, but there's so much plot and movement and beats that have to happen to get things across the line. Rather than Too Good to Be True, there's something more sort of, I don't know, like personal or emotional is more the hook that's driving it. And I'm like, can you feel that as a director, or does it change that the way you approach what you're looking for, or is it, just the same toolkit implemented differently?
I think it is sort of the same toolkit implemented differently, because I mean, without giving anything away for Video Nasty, one of my, so I directed episodes 4 and 5, and episode 5 is where it actually takes a bit of a breather, and it does become a lot more emotional, and there's kind of the time for the characters to sit with what's happened and where they're all at. And that's, to be honest, I love the stunts. I love I love the paciness, and I love the horror elements. But I think that is, as a director in general, what I love most is there's more intimate, emotional moments. Just trying to create the space, not only with the cast and what's happening in front of the camera, but with the crew as well. That I think there has to be like a symbiosis there in terms of the sphere on set, while those scenes are being shot, to really create a space where that emotional connection can feel, very holistic and real and safe for the actors to go there.
And in Too Good to Be True, you've a very young child actor that actually carries a lot. Is that something that, like, what is it? They always say animals and kids. What was that? Does that change your approach?
Yeah, we had animals and kids, and Too Good to Be True. It does. I mean, well, Charlie is playing younger than he is. Charlie was 13, and I mean, still very young, but my God, like, he is just an incredible actor. Like, not an incredible child actor. He's just an incredible actor. He really and truly, like, was a joy to work with. Like, I never at any point was like, oh my God, working with kids is not something I want to do again. If they were all like Charlie, I'd work with them every day. Because I remember I always tell this story of the moment that I knew that there wasn't going to be any problem here with directing him, was when I first sat down with Cara Toynton, Alan Leach, and Charlie Hodson Pryor, the three leads in Too Good to Be True. And see, Charlie's mother was there as well. And we were talking character. I was mainly talking to Cara and Alan about, about their characters and their relationships and everything. Then I said to Charlie, and it was a learning curve for me as well, because I think I was kind of like, oh, just make Charlie feel included and ask something, But then his answer made me go, huh, okay, I need to reframe how I'm talking to this kid, because he is really on the level. Because I just said to him, I just said, Charlie, do you have any questions about your relationship, with Cara as your mother, or your relationship to Alan when he comes into the story? And he kind of took a pause to think about it, and then he said, "Well, if I've seen my mum be treated really badly by boyfriends before, I'm just wondering what it is about Alan's character that makes me trust him so much quicker than I've learned to trust the other men." And I was like, oh my God, that is such a perceptive, intelligent question to ask. And I know that everybody who worked with him thought he was just mind-blowingly intelligent and emotionally tuned to what he had to play. So it changes obviously it changes the atmosphere on set. Everybody's watching their P's and Q's more, but it also changes it in a really positive way, that like he was a little prankster and a little joker, and we were having he was everybody's best friend by the end of it. So yeah, it changes the atmosphere, but I think sometimes in a really exciting way. And the same with On Video Nasty, working with, none of them are teenagers, they're early 20s, but just I love working with young people because there's a different energy and excitement and atmosphere.
Let's dig in to Too Good to Be True. How did you get involved? So this again was shot in Ireland for the most part, which I was actually surprised at. I should have recognised this, but I was. Talk to me about that production and how you came on board with it, and again what your process was in developing it.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't notice that it was that was the idea.
I was too engrossed in the drama. I was like,
no, it's great. So how did so that had come in through my agent after I'd done EastEnders, and so yeah, it came in through my agent, and I was kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe they're even considering me for this, because it was all 4 episodes, of limited series. And had the initial meeting, and again, I prepared a mood board, but I'd kind of gone, oh, I won't give everything away yet because I want to have something for the next scene, kind of thing. And but they just, I think what I'd done differently in that meeting than other pitch meetings, and I like to say this because I think a lot of people hold this kind of thing close to their chest and they won't give away their secrets, but I think that what I did in this pitch meeting that was different to some of the other ones that I hadn't got was that I just really focused on character, and I really focused on what my connection was, or what my in was to the story, and how I wanted to frame those characters, and how I wanted to preserve the integrity in particular of the lead female character in a story where, if it was to be directed in a different way, could make her look very naive and almost frivolous in terms of her son's safety. And I just really wanted to make sure that didn't happen. And I think that they were interested in that, and they were interested in the perspective that I had on it. So then to be honest, John Wallace, who produced it, was kind of really my champion on that. I think he's a real true creative sort of producer that he sees people's potential, and he really like champions people and pushes for them, I think, which is really lovely and quite rare to find. So he had kind of, we went for lunch, and he kind of sussed me out a little bit more in terms of my experience on Fair City and EastEnders, and I was offered to have another meeting with John and with the guys from the execs from Story Films in the UK. And at that point, then, you know, I just talked to my agent and been like, really, really want this. What's my strategy going to be? And he was like, just like go hell for leather on your mood board. Do like, so I did. And I just like, I talked them through like a 20-page mood board. And I just kind of didn't take no for an answer.
Brilliant. God. And in terms of then, okay, you've got the role, or you've got the role. What's it like then? So you're sitting down, you're working with the production team, you're making decisions on casting and location. Have some of that been kind of filled in on already, you know, like before you came on board? Like how much is done and then how much are you kind of over?
No, well, I mean, because I was directing all 4 episodes and it was a limited series, like it hadn't, you know, no was no pre-existing IP for it or anything. So it was very much from the very beginning, a collaborative process between myself and my HODs. And then, of course, like Channel 5 and Story Films and everybody having their own input and ideas as well on, like particularly on the locations. Like Leah's house was a really big one. It was the most difficult location to find because it had to me, it's a character in itself. It had to feel like, you know, so vast and, you know, vast and exciting and like a completely different world to both Rachel and Liam, her son. And particularly to Liam, you know, there had to be these things that would excite a young boy, you know, like the garage with all the cars and the big TV and all of this kind of stuff. But I also felt that it needed, because the original idea that had kind of been scripted for it, or I think that story had kind of imagined, was that it would be sort of like the Ex Machina house, like it would be all very sleek and chrome and everything like that. And I kind of pushed for it to be something with a little bit more character and history, because I felt like that's, if Rachel had the means, that's the kind of house she would want to live in, and that would feel more like a home. And it also had a bit of a creepiness about it, that to have that history there, you know. So that was like a big push from my end to kind of, that I really wanted that vision for the house. And I think it really worked out well in the end. But yeah, I mean, so it was amazing. It was an amazing gig to get as my first TV job outside of soap, because I had so much creative control over it, which was really, really exciting. I got to just completely, you know, paint on a blank canvas, which was amazing.
And casting and things like this. So that's something that you're brought in on the get-go, or, you know, like for funding, did certain names have to be attached already?
Not attached already, but I certainly, like, the net wasn't as wide for the two adult leads. You know, it was, they did want people with a certain amount of recognition from the audience to play those leads. So we thought of Alan pretty early on for that role, and that was kind of a straight, let's go straight to Alan about that. And we had a great chat then over the phone, you know, when he was considering it, and we were just completely on the same page about how we would approach Elliot. So that was really exciting then, and he was kind of on board then from that point.
And actually what you're saying totally is true about her agency, the fact that he's so warm, and, you know, even all the characters that he has played up to this point are those household, like, warm, kind type characters. It's perfect for the audience because you can see that duality, because you're not giving her, like, yeah, she's not like a naive weakling. Of course, like, he presents as this, like, beautiful, genuine person. I mean, and it's not going to spoiler into it, but there's more to him, and that's
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was important, because there was a couple of other, like, names that were in the pot at one stage, and I was like, no, because he's, you know, this person or that person is a fantastic actor, but they've kind of played this sort of role before, that where they've turned out to be, you know, untrustworthy or this or that. And I liked that about his presence in general, and also what his history on screen for the audience is sort of a warm, as you say, and trustworthy character. And I think that really worked in our favor. Um, I think I couldn't have imagined anybody else in that role, to be honest. I think he's just perfect for it.
And it's so, I mean, something like that hinges so much on the mystery, the pacing, the chemistry, the slow unfurling of information. Is that something that's hard? Because if you're so familiar with the content and the story, to say, okay, well, do the audience know this at this point, or are we giving too much away, or is that too obvious if we're foreshadowing it now? Like, are they all things that you have to kind of test along the way, or would that have been like super carefully planned out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the scripts you try to preempt it as much as possible, but at the same time, a lot of that pacing and that tension building was created in the edit, because and I kind of, one thing that I really wanted to make sure of was, as I said, that house felt like it had its own presence, and that we got enough sort of putaways around the house and stuff like that we could create that pacing and that tension. That it wasn't just going to be scene to scene to scene. There needed to be some breathing room to sort of ponder, the weird little moments and things like that. Um, yeah, and then as you say, yeah, sometimes it's just nipping and cutting in the edit as well. When you kind of look at it and you go, maybe we're giving too much away there. And actually, there's a way I can suggest this visually that doesn't completely, like that. Like that's kind of always what I'm thinking of. If I look at the script and I see some lines of dialogue or something that feel a bit expositional, won't necessarily cut them there and then, but I'll try to come up with some visual alternatives that I can try to get that might give that sense without fully telling it.
So this was your first, you were saying like that's your first kind of like standalone series of that isn't soap, and the process was different and you were kind of like in it at an earlier stage. Is there stuff that you maybe learned there that you didn't know you had to learn, or is there anything that you came out at the end of this with like a different, more honed skill set in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the biggest learning, it was the first time that I'd worked with an intimacy coordinator, and as I said, like that was really interesting, and definitely like had a new appreciation for what can come out. Obviously, what we can discover in scenes when we're working with them. Also stunt stuff. Yeah, I hadn't done these kind of stunts before, and just a new appreciation for the toll that they take on your actors and the time that they take and the choreography there. Like, just I learned a lot from that as well. But I think that the biggest learning curve for me was actually in the post process, just about like learning how to take notes from lots of different directions and how to sort of know my boundaries as well in terms of what I need when I'm receiving that feedback and reacting to that feedback as well. Do you know, like knowing that it's actually okay to say, you know what, I'd rather have a Zoom conversation about this than have a list on an email thread or something like that. I think that in this industry, the main thing that I learn on most projects, like as I move from one project to another, is usually about communication styles and collaboration more than technical stuff. Once you know your way around the technical stuff in a certain light, then it's applicable to everything. But what's new on every project is the people that you're working with and the situation and the that, like, it's always about collaboration. It's always about learning more about collaboration and communication, and might also not just what other people are reacting well to, but how I can do my best work in kind of safeguard myself in that process as well.
Of course, that you want everything to be the best, and if note is interpreted in a wrong way, then it's wrong for everyone. And in terms of conflicting notes, because there's so many like so many people have stakes in that particular game, and if people have very conflicting notes, is it like, so you were saying about communication style, so what would you advise, say, coming out the other end, someone in that position to do, that if they're going, okay, a note saying cut it, a note saying make it longer, a note saying shoot pickups, and you've three different things, what would like, and I'm using a complete hypothetical as well because obviously you can't say personal things, but what would you advise then? Because I do think that's something that actually comes up a lot. It comes up a lot for writers, it comes up a lot for directors. I know everyone's kind of communication style is different, but like maybe in a way where a relationship is fresh and you don't have a full sense of somebody, yeah, what would you kind of suggest someone do in that circumstance? That you were saying Zoom is the first protocol and not just cold hard text, but
Yeah, well, for me it is because I just think, it's like things can always be misinterpreted in text because you don't have any tone of voice. So a lot of the time, I just think it's always better if it can be a conversation rather than feel like you're getting a list of demands. And very often, often as well, some people, not all people, some people are great at it, but some people kind of forget to give some positive reinforcement as well. And then you can just feel like, oh my God, I thought that this was in a pretty good place and actually, it's terrible. And, I think people kind of forget sometimes about that as a director, even when you've shot the whole thing and you've pieced it together, there's like actually one of the most vulnerable moments is when somebody watches the first cut. And when you watch the first cut, I mean, most directors I know, we all have a little cry when we watch the first cut because it's just never exactly what you imagine. And so it's vulnerable, and it's your work and you just you always need to like it's sometimes, yeah, just basically sometimes the first round of notes can be sort of heartbreaking, but then it gets easier every time. But I do think that, yeah, for me anyway, and maybe it's not the same for everybody. I think some people maybe have a thicker skin or something and are just like, oh, let's just be a bit more practical about it. Just send me exact notes and time codes. I like to have conversations about it. And because sometimes also the thing that they think is the problem might not be the problem. They might, pacing is off here, but then if you actually talk about it, it's because they were knocked off by something earlier in the scene or in the previous scene. So that's why I think the conversations are usually more fruitful.
the note behind the note, that's normally
Exactly. Exactly. And also if there's somebody, whether it's an exec or the producer, somebody who can sort of, when you're getting notes in from funders and broadcasters and all of that, I think that it's been really helpful for me if there's an exec or somebody who kind of filters all those notes through and they have those conversations between each other to come to a common ground in what they're all looking for and then collate them into so that they're not conflicting. Because yeah, it can get extremely confusing when you get one set of notes in and you start working on that in the edit and then you get another set of notes in that are saying something completely different and you're like, oh my God, I don't know where to go now. Can't see the wood for the trees. So
well, you can't see the wood for the trees, but what's there is just such a beautiful forest. I could not stop watching it. And I was exhausted then today because I couldn't turn it off. It's so gripping and fun and like, and sort of like, I don't know, like the world is that like wish fulfillment world. So you're like, oh, I'd love to be like rich and live in a big mansion and have all this drama around. It's fabulous. It's such an entertaining watch.
yeah, it's definitely a guilty pleasure. Yeah, fulfilling some of the fantasies.
I mean, these are two just incredible projects that are across the line. Um, you're working on your feature film now, but I presume you have a few other things like bubbling away in the pot. Is there anything you can kind of talk about? And then finally, what would be your dream if someone is like blank check, this is your next project, what would that be? Besides your feature film. That's a given. That's done.
Yeah, I do have a TV project lined up now, coming up soon with Dynamic Television. They're an American company, but they're shooting here in Ireland. So, and John Wallace is producing for that as well. Again, so that's going to be really exciting and fun. And then yeah, so the feature that I'm developing with Fantastic Films and my co-writer Joy Buckle is called Knots, and that's a psychological horror. Mm, But yeah, I'm really hoping. I think that it's kind of got all the ingredients to be a great first feature, and it's very achievable. So is good. So I'm really hoping that that's going to take off, and I'm going to take a bit of time to work on that and write that towards the end of the year. But if I literally was given an unlimited pot of money, I've had this crazy idea for a sort of comedy horror set in the 1500s around the dancing plagues in Europe. Um,
Fabulous.
yeah, so it would like incorporate some crazy dance and sort of a quite a anarchic queer storyline. And that's what I would absolutely love to do if I had all the money in the world. But I think it's more of a second or third or fourth or fifth feature at the moment. It's not quite as achievable as not.
Oh, fabulous. No, it sounds amazing. I think it's something we all need. It's like, I don't know, like Tony, so comedy. I love period comedies. Like you just don't get them that often. And then they're so fresh when you get them that's really enjoyable to have that tone in there and choreographed crack.
Yeah, exactly. I love a bit of choreographed crack.
Oh, I'm so delighted. And like it's so exciting. And okay, so you've two brilliant projects coming on the air. So where can people in Ireland watch them?
So in Ireland, Video Nasty is the first two episodes are broadcasting on the 20th. That's Monday the 20th on Virgin Media 1 at 9 p.m. and Virgin Media 2 at 10 p.m. And I believe that they will be on the Virgin Player. Yeah, it's a Leo there as well. And then UK audiences can see it already on the BBC iPlayer, and BBC Northern Ireland already started screening last week. Yeah, the first two episodes, but the next two episodes will be out next week on Wednesdays, I believe it is. Too Good to Be True actually aired on Channel 5 earlier this year, but you may have missed it on Irish TV because it actually went out under the name Captivated on Virgin Media. So I believe it's still up on the players and things like that. So if you're trying to find it, you might have a better luck with Captivated than Too Good to Be True.
Brilliant. That's some great watching out for the cold January, dry January nights.
Yeah. Video Nasty is definitely one. If you love 80s nostalgia, Stranger Things, The Goonies, it's definitely up people's alley.
Thanks so much for chatting with us.
Thanks, Gemma.
And thank you so much for listening. So make sure to never miss another podcast or review and subscribe to our newsletter over at filmireland.ie.